All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Kerner Report. Today, we're going to be doing an episode that is a little different. Usually on the Kerner Report, I have a guest, but today, there are no guests. It is just me. And I thought this would be a fun opportunity to try this out, just me by myself, and we'll see how it goes. And I think it will be a cool experience and something to consider for the future as well. But next week, I have a planned guest, so stay tuned for that. But this week, it's just me. I got my coffee. I got an iced coffee today. Doesn't even have really ice in it. I guess it's just a cold coffee. It's a cold coffee, okay? Not bad. I have tea with me. I have two drinks, pretty loaded. All right, ready to go. So, like I was saying, it's a different episode, but welcome back as always. Thank you guys so much for listening. I feel like I don't say that enough, but I really do appreciate it. When I can see on my distribution site, I can see all the listeners, and I think it's awesome. And shout out to all of the international people listening. I think that's so amazing. I can see there's people from Ireland. I think there's someone from Brazil. There's a few people from Canada, I think. Yeah, there's a few people from Canada. It's so cool. I think that's awesome. So welcome to the podcast, guys. I didn't even consider that it could go international, but it is. And that's amazing. So welcome, everyone. The two main things that feel like a motif in the podcast, in my podcast so far, feels like the state of the world, talking about what's going on with COVID, talking about what's going on with the news and everything. It ends up being incorporated into a lot of what we're talking about. And the other thing is college, but I'll get to that later. But for now, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, and I was looking up just like what is going on in the world. I'm also a PR major, so I'm constantly looking at the news anyway, and I was just looking at the New York Times, just like the front page of the website on the New York Times, and it says, oh, this was yesterday, so I have to update the page, see if there's anything new. Yeah, see, it's completely updated. Makes sense. First things about Trump: draws from campaign funds to pay legal bills. Race for coronavirus vaccine pits spy against spy. Coronavirus crisis shatters India's big dreams. John Kelly, Center report on Trump's remarks, keeps silent. Battle over biscuits and gravy. Oh, that's interesting. Oh no. No. Just it's about racial injustice. So, I mean, like, looking through all this, it's like, what? If you were looking at the New York Times, I feel like a year ago, or like, I also have the LA Times open and looking at that. It's like, what is going on in the world right now? The state of the world right now is absolutely insane. I mean, this is obvious, but it just looking at something like this and just seeing, oh my God. Like a year from now, or a year ago, no one was thinking like this, but it's kind of crazy just looking at everything going on and just being like, wow. The uncertainty, the fear. I think we can all relate to that a little bit, but we gotta take it day by day. Nothing is ideal right now, but we gotta take it day by day and stay positive. It is a beautiful day here in Mill Valley. The Mill Valley parents were partying last night. I don't know why they were doing that, but across the street, you could hear partying. That was funny. But anyway, so the main topic I just wanted to reference that because it's just crazy in my search for a topic. I was looking at all this. I was like, it is so bizarre. It feels bizarre. But anyway, so the main topic of the podcast today is the topic of college. And that is, as I said, a motif that runs through my podcast so far. That's something that, my friends and I we're going through, and that's the audience that I'm kind of reaching is the young adult college student audience for the most part. And I thought today would be a good opportunity, since it's just me, to go over my journey to where I am now at USC. how I got here, because it's not a normal journey. I feel I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna take it back to starting like junior year, but it's not a normal journey that people go through, I think. But that's okay, and that's what I'm realizing, is there is no such thing as a normal journey or an expected path. I think there are expected paths that people expect us to do when we say we want to go to college, or when we're graduating high school. What's your next step for life? People say college, people say 4-year plan, like stuff like that. But I just want to give my journey and tell my story, and kind of just give more context, but also to hopefully give some advice for people who are in the process of going through it right now. So, junior year in high school, starting junior year in high school, applying for schools. Before you had to do any of that, you had to take the dreaded standardized test. Just by saying standardized test, just by saying the ACT, SAT, I know the people who have taken it, some people who have taken it have already gotten shivers down their spine, because it is brutal. People, you are so lucky nowadays. My sister, who's 2 years younger than me, didn't have to take it, and lucky her, man. I wish I was in her shoes. It is a brutal test, but it was an experience, and I had to go through it. So I chose the, ACT, SAT. Which one do you pick? You can do both. I chose ACT because I didn't want to do math. I did that twice. I ended up getting a 28, and I was happy with that. And I know people, if you're trying to, the UC schools are like, you gotta get like 30 plus or whatever. And I'm like, I know, but it was not an easy test for me, and I was getting a 28, and I was happy. So I did that, and the next step was, what major do you want to do when you're looking at colleges? I knew I wanted to do something in communications, something in marketing, something in film, something in that liberal arts space, not so much, not into math, anything but math or science. Not those. So sticking towards communication, marketing, film, those are the areas I was interested in. I did a lot of drama in high school. I knew that I could potentially pivot that into film or something more along those lines. I have a little sheet here that gives me it's like a cheat sheet going through the plan that I have, but just so if I'm referencing that, that's what I'm doing. And then the location. They were pushing that for us. They're like, you got to know what location you really care about. And I'm like, I don't really care about the location. I care about the school. And then I realized, no, I do care about the location, because if I'm going to go to a school that's snowy all the time, I know that's not me. I think that would be fun for the short term, but potentially living there, I'm like, I probably would not be as happy as if I was in the sun right now, because I function better when I'm in the sun, not in the rain and the cold. So I was realizing I'm kind of leaning towards Southern California already, because I knew I liked California. I liked Southern California a lot. I knew that I wanted to be in Southern California. And then I also had this theory, I'm like, oh my God, I'd be so sick to go abroad. The American University of Paris was another school I was looking at, and I was like, that sounds so amazing just to live in Paris and go to school. But then it felt like a wild card thing, and I ended up not even applying. But that was another thing. I wish I kind of, in a way, kept my options more open outside of California and outside of the US, because I think there's so many schools that are just, and if you're into that international experience, go for it. It is so cool to be abroad, to potentially learn a new language, or be immersed in a new culture. That just seems amazing. So, but I knew I most likely I wanted to be in California, and ideally Southern California. So I applied to, I have a list of all the schools I applied to. I applied to UCLA, Berkeley, Santa Barbara, San Diego, UC Davis, USC, UC Irvine, University of Oregon, University of Colorado Boulder, Cal Poly SLO, CSU Long Beach, COM, and College of Marin, and Santa Monica College. I applied, and that process is annoying, man. We all know, when I mentioned the Common App, another thing that everyone hates, Common App. Talking about the Common App is not fun. All right, anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. Okay, So, applying with the Common App, applying with the Cal State application, applying with the UC application, waiting a few months, hearing back from all these schools. I got rejected. I'll just say what I got. I got rejected from UCLA, rejected from UC Berkeley, rejected from Santa Barbara, waitlisted at San Diego, waitlisted at Davis. USC, I got rejected, but I'll get back to that in a second. UC Irvine, I got in. Oregon, I got in. Boulder, I got in. Cal Poly SLO, I got in. CSU Long Beach, I got in. And then COM and SMC, I got in. And then came the process of picking a college. That, yeah, that was a doozy. The top choices I was thinking of was like, if I got into USC or UCLA, I would be set. I'd be like, those are the schools. I mean, really, honestly, after touring the schools, you guys got to tour the schools as much as you can. I know now, try to do virtual tours or try to go in small groups or just walk around the campus if it's even open. I don't even think they're open, but if it, really check out the schools and really try to go there even after you hear back. I know some people go to check out the schools before they apply. I don't think it's as necessary. I think if you apply to the schools and then hear back, and if there's like a lot of schools on the other side of the country, wait until you hear back and if you got in. I don't think it's worth flying all the way across the country to go to look at a school if you don't even know if you're in or not. That's my thoughts. But yeah, I looked at USC, looked at UCLA. Those were the two I wanted to go to, and I got off the bat rejected from both. And the other ones I wasn't too big on, but I realized I do like Cal Poly. It has an interesting program, digital communications. I actually ended up committing to Cal Poly before the May 1st deadline. You have to pick a college before the May 1st deadline. The two wait lists will get back to me after that deadline, and then I can cancel out of Cal Poly. I can drop out of Cal Poly, quote unquote drop out, and then go to my waitlist school. That's kind of the plan that you can do when you're waiting on a wait list. So I commit to Cal Poly. I went to their open house. I was like, this is cool. I know some people here. A lot of people are from my community. A lot of people go to Cal Poly. I'm like, this seems like a good option. I didn't feel completely at home, but I did it. It seemed like a good option from what I had so far. I knew I didn't really like Irvine that much. And Boulder, snowy, meh. Long Beach, meh. COM and SMC were stuff I applied to later after hearing back from all my options. I'll get to that in a second. I knew that it was a good option, so I committed to Cal Poly SLO. And then May 1st comes around. I hear back from the two waitlists. I hear back from San Diego. I hear back from Davis. UC San Diego, UC Davis. I got accepted into Davis off the waitlist, and I got rejected from San Diego. So there I was like, okay, I already want to go to Davis more than I want to go to Cal Poly. Let's get out of there. But here's the kicker. Here's the thing I didn't tell you guys about when I got rejected from USC. When I got rejected from USC, they put a little thing. It's a private school. It's they do care about legacy. I have to be honest. We talked about this a little bit last week with Magnus. Go check out that episode if you haven't already. It's awesome. Super funny. Magnus is such a great guy. Got shout out Magnus on this one. Come on. Oh yeah, okay. So for USC, because they are private, because they care about legacy, because my grandmother went to USC Business School. She has zero affiliation with the school now. She doesn't care, but she went there and got a business degree. And because of that, and I put that on the application, they go, Andrew, we're so sorry we have to reject you. You're part of the Trojan family. I'm like, I am? Okay. Sure. Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry that you had to reject me too. But what they do is we want to offer you the Trojan transfer plan. And I think this is a topic that some people get kind of nervous about, because talking about legacy, talking about, maybe they're doing this just because I'm legacy. And I think, to be honest, at some level they did. But at another level, I know I did work very hard to get considered by these schools. And if they are offering me this option, then I'm gonna take it. But what the Trojan transfer plan is it's saying this is something they have to offer you, and they're saying we can't accept you, but we will be able to accept you pretty much guaranteed if you do a different school for a year. If you do like a community college for a year. Or it doesn't have to be a community college. It can be another school for a year. So I knew that this whole time, even when I committed to Cal Poly. But I realized after hearing back from Davis, I'm like, yeah, okay, UC Davis is more of that 4-year school that I want. But it's not everything. And thinking long and hard through all of this, it was a tough decision. At the end of the day, I'm going to want to be in LA. At the end of the day, I can wait a year. USC is one of my dream school, is my dream school, and I'd love to go there. So I realized it's worth it waiting that year. After getting out of Cal Poly, I had UC Davis or USC, and I went with USC on the Trojan transfer plan. That meant going to a community college for a year. I go to SMC. I applied to it's so interesting because you apply to like all these schools and you hear back months later, but when you apply to a community college, you hear back literally 5 minutes later. That's what happened when I applied to College of Marin and Santa Monica College. I applied to them and I hear back. I'm like, well, it's a little different. The process took 5 minutes to apply. I didn't have to like submit anything. I don't think I even had to submit my GPA. Like, I don't even think I had to submit a transcript, but you just submit for a little. You submit you type in like your information, click submit, hear back 5 minutes later that you're in. I'm like, this is amazing. Why does no one, not many people, I mean, some people I know do this, but not a lot of people do this. The perception of going to a 4-year school is so big. And the perception that we have to go on this 4-year track and graduate from a 4-year school and have the classic college experience is so big that no one does this. I'm like, wow, this is a new option that I didn't know about. I'm like, this is interesting. So I applied to College of Marin and Santa Monica College. The reason why I applied to Santa Monica College is because my grandparents in LA said, you can just come live with us since we're really close to Santa Monica College. I'm like, okay. That would feel like I'm outside of Northern California. I'm outside of my community. I'll have a more college-y-like experience, even though it's not a real. It's basically a commuter school, and there's not a lot of social life, honestly. People just go into their classes, get in, get out. But I was like, yeah, that's more away from home. I'm with that. Let's do it. So did the Santa Monica College to USC thing. That was the plan. A lot of uncertainty. So I feel like now with everything going on in the world, I feel like I was more prepared for it because having the uncertainty of not for sure knowing that I'm going to USC. They can't guarantee it because if you you have to get a certain GPA to maintain good standing with the program. Like a 3.6 GPA to stay within good standing and to get into the programs that you want. I mean, you'll have to get a better GPA than that if you want to apply to harder programs or more competitive programs. So, and that's what I did. And I reapplied on the Common App. I've reapplied on the Common App as a transfer. Reapplying on the Common App is weird. Going back and putting in your information again and reapplying gives me flashbacks because that process, I'm sorry for people going through it now. My sister's going through it right now. It's a rough process, going through different things, figuring out what information to put in, how to get letters of rec, all that. I had to do that again. So I get it, but it was worth it because now I'm at USC online USC. And that's what happened. So that's my college experience. Sorry, it really is like a rambling stream of conscious type thing. But I hope hearing that it was helpful. Just to show you that it's not a straight path for everyone. It's not 4-year to graduate to job path for everyone. And I think that is a perception from my community growing up that's what's expected of you. And now looking back, here's my advice for the people going through the college process right now, especially within COVID times and everything. There is so much pressure from my community to go to a UC school or go to a top school or go to a 4-year school. Where we grow up, the friends, the society, our family, they, for the most part, this is how it was for me, want, or it's implied that you will go to a 4-year school and then you will graduate. Then that the 4-year path that you were going to apply to a school and go there for 4 years and then graduate. And looking back, if I had to tell my younger self, where I am right now and how I got here, it's not that for everyone. And it doesn't have to be that way for you. And I had that in my head from the beginning that I wanted to go to a 4-year school. But I don't have to. No one has to do anything. They can take a gap year. You can go to community college for 2 years. You can go to community college for 2 years and then go and graduate from the dream school that you wouldn't have been able to get in the first place. You know what I mean? You save $60,000, $50,000, more than that, depending on the school, if you're going public or private. You're going to save so much money. You're going to have easier classes. The classes are going to be easier. You're still going to have small classes. You'll be able to talk with your professors. And especially now, if it's online school, going to community college is the way to go, in my opinion, especially if you don't know exactly what you want to do with your life. Community college gives you a chance to test out different classes, to figure out what paths you want to go on. So I'm kind of big on pushing community college now. I'm also big on pushing a gap year. I think the feeling that I have to go to college right after high school is very big. Is very strong. I have to go to college after high school. I want to go now. I want to finish my education now. It's not that simple. People were saying, oh, it's better if you do a gap year. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't want to do a gap year. But I think in some ways they're right. It's important to take a break. You can make money during that time. You can find something you're interested in during that time. You can try out different things. And then you can come back more invigorated, more excited to learn than if you didn't take a gap year. And I think you're going to a lot of people burn themselves out and get exhausted, even if they're in their good, happy 4-year school, because they didn't take a break after high school. They work so hard during high school. Take a break. You can even apply to a school and then request a gap year. I know people who do that. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the schools don't allow that, especially now they're not going to allow that with deferring. But it's possible. And my main thing is just be honest with yourself. Try not to let the external pressure get to you. Do what makes you happy. And if it makes you happy trying really hard to get into your dream school and getting into your dream school, go for it. No problem. I totally support that. But I also totally support taking a step back, saying, I don't know exactly what I want to do right now. I need to figure it out. And that's, I think, the lesson that I learned going through this process. Because I felt like I did have a direction, but I think it's also important to recognize that there are so many ways to get where I want to go, and there's so many ways to stay motivated and stay locked in. It's an individual journey, and I think the external pressures can get to people. One more thing, I want to say, college during COVID times is whack, and the uncertainty, as we know, is off the charts. So the process that's already very uncertain, that's already very full of pressure, that's already very scary, just got more scary and more uncertain. So really take it day by day. Try to make the most of it. When I'm in college right now doing online classes at USC, it feels crazy the amount of money I'm paying for online classes. It's mind-boggling. But this is the process that I felt like I wanted the most. This is I want the most. And I'm going to have to deal with that and deal with the consequences. But that's what it is. That's what I want. So my point is that you got to make the most of online school. It's weird. Everything's up in the air. Our college is going back. No one knows where to live with parents, get a house with friends. Those are some options I was thinking of. Just going back to the parents, going back to living at home during COVID times. It's very weird. Very weird, to be honest. Trying to be an adult, but going back to parents. I was having in the men's group that I'm in, it's like what one of them said is, when you go back to live with your parents, it's like you're digressing back into your childlike state. And that was the perfect way to put it, because you're trying to be an adult. You're trying to go out and live in the world, and then you come back to your parents, and then it's like you're a kid again. I mean, that feels very scary to me, because I really feel like I need that independence. I need to be able to do what I want. But I mean, that's been a process, and I feel that with every single person I talk to who's back with their parents. They feel the same way, because it's so different and it's so weird. and you want that independence, and you want to be able to go out and do what you want and not worry about it. I feel like this whole podcast so far has been a ramble, and with the college process, people going through it right now, I wish you luck. And the people who are listening who've been through it, I'm sure you can relate to what I'm saying. You know, we've all been there, and we get it, and we wish you the best. My advice for the people going through right now is just be honest with yourself. Don't get caught up in the pressure. I want to thank you guys so much for listening. This has been a different style of podcast. I hope you found it interesting and hopefully informative. We'll go back to our regularly scheduled guest speaker next week, so stay tuned for that. And a few quick announcements, the announcements that I make every single week, but I love to make them so much. Go follow the Kerner Report podcast YouTube channel for full episodes and TKR podcast clips for clips and highlights. Go to teespring.com/shop/TK Report for the Kerner Report Essentials drop. We have some great stuff on there, so go grab some merch and support the podcast. I'm wearing some merch right now. I'll plug it even more. It's very comfortable. It looks pretty good, not gonna lie, and it's I like it a lot. And I think you guys should go, grab some merch. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate all of my listeners so much. I'll see you guys next week.